Episode begins. Sunraku barely escapes the deadly attack of the shark monster and manages to take refuge inside Inventoria, but his condition is critical. Though he avoided a direct hit, the shockwave from the attack had significantly reduced his HP. Wasting no time, Sunraku quickly consumes a healing potion, restoring his HP to full. As he catches his breath, he contemplates the situation. He had hoped that the shark monster's attack would have struck the tower, possibly damaging it. However, after waiting inside Inventoria for some time, Sunraku steps back outside and is left in shock. All the surrounding buildings have been reduced to rubble, yet the tower remains completely intact. Observing the scene, Sunraku realizes something crucial. The buildings around have not regenerated, and the tower has not been repaired by Kudernate's ability. This suggests that the tower is indestructible. Suddenly, the shark monster lunges at Sunraku once again, and he is startled to find that despite the time he spent inside Inventoria, the creature is still lingering nearby. In a moment of despair, Sunraku nearly gives up, convinced that he cannot escape this relentless enemy. But just as the shark monster is about to land a fatal blow, Araba swoops in and grabs Sunraku, carrying him to safety. Araba then speaks, expressing disbelief that Sunraku had the audacity to pick a fight with Atlanticus Lepnorca, the king of the deep. Sunraku, still reeling from the situation, asks Araba how he is managing to fly. Araba explains that he isn't flying but rather swimming, an adaptation he developed after their previous discussions about how mermaids move through water. Given their similarities, he applied the same logic to his own movement. However, Araba reminds Sunraku that their main concern should be escaping from the king of the deep. As Sunraku looks back, he notices something on the ground, and an idea suddenly forms in his mind. One that might just allow them to defeat the king of the deep. Before he can explain, the king of the deep attacks, knocking Sunraku from Araba's grasp and sending him plummeting toward the ground. However, Araba quickly saves him again, and Sunraku urges him to fly toward the buildings for cover. Araba follows his suggestion, and the king of the deep pursues them. As they maneuver through the city, Sunraku remarks that he never expected Araba to be able to swim through the air. Araba admits that he couldn't before, but figured it out recently based on their previous conversation about mermaids. Sunraku then begins explaining his plan. When the shark monster attacked the tower, Sunraku had noticed that the debris didn't fall in a straight line, but rather in two distinct paths. This led him to believe that the city follows an inverted logic, and the tower is not an indestructible structure, but rather a reflective one. He deduces that attacks directed at the tower are being reflected rather than absorbed. Araba, upon hearing this, realizes that Sunraku might be right. Sunraku then proposes using the King of the Deep's own laser attack against it. They need to bait the creature into firing at the tower, which will then reflect the attack back at it. Araba is skeptical, questioning whether Sunraku can really pull this off, but Sunraku insists that he has a plan, though he cannot execute it alone. He asks Araba to distract the King of the Deep for just 1 minute, leading it away. Araba is hesitant but ultimately agrees, preparing himself for the dangerous task. He flies off, drawing the King of the Deep's attention, while Sunraku begins executing his strategy. However, the King of the Deep continues chasing Sunraku instead of Araba, as Sunraku had anticipated. Realizing this, Sunraku quickly devises another solution. He uses one of his skills to leave behind a shadow clone, which the King of the Deep immediately targets. Seizing the opportunity, Sunraku slips away into a narrow alley and hides. He knows that if he can remain unseen and enter Inventoria, the King of the Deep will lose interest and find a new target. As expected, the King of the Deep continues attacking the shadow, unaware of Sunraku's disappearance. Meanwhile, Araba tries to lure the monster's attention by challenging it, proclaiming himself as a proud merman warrior. However, the King of the Deep completely ignores him, focusing solely on Sunraku's reflection. When the reflection eventually fades, the King of the Deep finally shifts its attention to Araba, who now finds himself in serious trouble. Inside Inventoria, Sunraku realizes that his decoy must have faded by now, which means he can safely return outside. He emerges and immediately starts climbing the tower. As he ascends, he notices something peculiar near the top, something that seems to be acting as a barrier. He figures that if the King of the Deep's laser destroys it, it might be beneficial. Reaching the right position, Sunraku aligns himself carefully, ensuring that when the King of the Deep fires its laser, it will reflect back at itself. Once in place, he calls out to Araba, telling him to bring the monster toward the tower. Araba, exhausted but determined, speeds toward Sunraku, with the King of the Deep in pursuit. As expected, the monster shifts its focus from Araba to Sunraku upon spotting him. Sunraku carefully monitors the creature's behavior. When it is close, it prefers to use physical attacks and electricity, but at long range, it relies on its laser. As the King of the Deep positions itself at a distance, it charges its laser attack and fires at Sunraku. The laser strikes the tower and is immediately reflected back, hitting the King of the Deep directly. The force of the attack sends the massive creature crashing into the ground, severely weakened. Seeing this, Sunraku quickly checks on Araba, who is barely holding on after their intense chase. Sunraku then notices that the King of the Deep's flames have started to die down, signaling that it is now vulnerable. Araba celebrates, thinking they have won, but Sunraku quickly corrects him, stating that the fight is not over yet. With the creature's defenses weakened, they now have a chance to finish it off with close-range attacks. Sunraku charges in and begins slashing at the King of the Deep, but his normal attacks have little effect due to its thick skin. Realizing this, he decides to use his powerful skill, Grill-ta Brill, and launches a relentless barrage of attacks. Though the flames still burning on the creature cause Sunraku's HP to decrease slightly, he knows this is his only chance. If the King of the Deep recovers, he won't be able to land another hit. Gathering all his strength, Sunraku leaps into the air and delivers a final devastating strike, killing the King of the Deep. However, just before it dies, the creature's body releases an enormous surge of energy, sending flames in all directions. Thinking quickly, Sunraku uses his crystal attack on the ground, creating a protective barrier just in time. The entire area is engulfed in flames, but Sunraku and Araba manage to survive by taking cover behind the crystal. When the flames finally subside, Sunraku, exhausted but victorious, retrieves the materials that dropped from the defeated King of the Deep. Overjoyed, he exclaims that he couldn't be happier, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. However, as he revels in his success, he suddenly remembers something. He had logged into Shangri-La Frontier at night. That means in the real world, morning must be approaching. And with that realization, the episode comes to an end.